Hello everyone, my name is Shelby and this is the series where I reveal what is inside these mystery pottery molds I found on Gumtree. Hello and welcome to part 40. I've got a nice little square mold today and I just wanted to say a massive thank you for all your love, comments, engagement. You may not know, but this week I got selected for Creator on the Rise on YouTube, which is so exciting. I didn't even know that was a thing. So thank you so much. I wouldn't have got that without you. So welcome to all the new subscribers that saw me on the Explore page on YouTube this week. It's so wonderful to have you here. So this mold is a square one. It's pretty small. I poured it up, let it set to reveal. You got to be really proud of me for finishing this one, if that's a clue. To reveal a clown cup. Yay! So if you've been watching this series for a while, I had poured a clown-esque mold. People are going to come for me for calling it a clown, but I poured a clown and I don't like clowns. I find them very eerie, and I don't like the sense of them having, I guess, like a mask on. I find that really scary and deceptive. I don't know. I'm not like scared, but I just don't enjoy them. So inside the mold, if you're looking to collect it, and you could kind of tell it was going to be a clown straight away with that big prominent nose and the really arched eyebrows. I was interested about the frill around the neck, what that would look like, and also the bow on the back of the head. I've never seen a clown with a bow on the back of the head, so I was curious to see what that looked like. So once it's come out of the mold, I trimmed back the pouring spout and I decided to take on one of your suggestions to paint it this week, and it was to randomly pick the colors out. So to not see what I'm picking and to just go for it. So here I am picking the colors. I've got a green, a yellow, an orange, another orange, a blue, and then I got like a soft pink color. So these are the colors that I probably would have picked anyway. I was kind of a little bit disappointed because the palette is really on the soft orange side, and I kind of wanted it to be like really creepy in a way. Like I wanted it to be like a really clash of color. So I am going to try and mix and match these colors as much as possible to sort of get that result with the colors that I picked out. So when I picked the colors out, I also took the white and the black out because I'm going to keep the white and the black for the eyes. I know that I should just do them a really random color, but I still want these to be sort of quirky and cute, and I didn't want to limit myself without having that white and black to finish the eyes, but that's the only colors I pre-selected. So I start by getting a thicker brush and adding the solid color on the most part of the hair with the orange, and then I go in with a smaller brush to paint the smaller details. I then go through each color and I show you the color that I'm about to use and where I place it throughout the video. So you guys have been really liking when I give some tips or talk about something about small business throughout these videos. So I thought I would do that again this week. So this week I wanted to have a chat about how to get into pottery as a hobby, or just hobbies as a general thing, how to get started. I also wanted to say that I'll try and do this as like a video on its own where I can actually sort of show you and do some face to camera sort of stuff. But for now, I thought it would be nice to just sort of, touch on it for what's to come. So yeah, we'll get into it. My number one tip is to just start. And you probably hear that a lot, but just start. And just have trust in the process and the fact that you are new to this and you are going to learn and grow incredibly with it. You're not going to be an expert straight away. You're not going to make completely perfect pieces straight away, but starting is the first step to really enjoying it. I find that the best way to sort of start a hobby when maybe you don't have much experience, or maybe the last time you picked up a colored pencil was in primary school, the best thing to do is to just let yourself go. Let yourself go in the sense of just like letting whatever comes out onto the page, comes out into the clay, whatever that might be, just let it come out just enjoy it and don't think about the end result. Don't think about having this completed piece. Just think about what the process is like for you, how you enjoy playing with the medium. Is the medium connecting with you? How does it feel to touch? Are you enjoying it? It comes down to, are you enjoying it for what it is and not for the end result that you're expecting to achieve? I think that sometimes in life we are such perfectionists and we try to aim for getting, a finished result straight away. And that doesn't happen. That rarely happens. We can do all the research we like, but clay does take a lot of muscle memory. It takes a lot of time, especially to build up those skills and those talents to be able to do it, to get the results that you expect to achieve. I didn't make a piece of work that I wanted to make for quite some time. It took me a long time. I just sort of settled for, I really like this, let's give this a go. And then I slowly built up my skills to making the works that I had imagined now. So yeah, that's my first tip, is to start, but don't expect you to be a absolute queen at it straight away. It takes time and it takes practice. My next tip is to start small. You don't want to jump all the way into it. So like for pottery, for example, you want to go for it, but you don't want to go out and buy a kiln, a pottery wheel, the glazes, all of these things when you're not even sure if you actually really like it. It's one thing to watch other people and be really inspired by what they're doing and to want to try it for yourself, but it's another thing to actually really enjoy it and know that you love doing that medium. I have done a few workshops in the past with pottery, and a lot of people have really romanticized the craft and thought that they were going to absolutely love it. But some people found that they didn't like the feeling of the clay. They didn't like having dusty hands. They didn't like having like the wet sloppiness in their fingers. There's so many things that, I guess, sensory wise, that we're not aware of until we actually give things a go. So when I say do like a soft entry into your medium, so whether that be for pottery specifically, getting a bag of air dry clay or getting a bag of polymer clay, because you can do that at home. You can make whatever you need to make out of the air dry clay and let it dry without needing a kiln, and polymer clay only needs your conventional kitchen oven. So it's not a massive commitment if you then decide that you don't like that tactile element, or maybe you don't like how you have to do certain movements with your hands. There's so much sensory elements in our fingertips that some people just find it really overwhelming and not as enjoyable as they first thought. So do a soft entry into it before fully committing to your equipment. Okay, so you've tried your polymer clay, you've tried your air dry clay, and you're ready to take the plunge. I must say that using like normal ceramic clay is so much easier than air dry clay and polymer clay. I find polymer clay is really waxy on my fingers and I don't like the feeling of that, and air dry cracks and is really dry compared to ceramic clay. So don't let those sort of elements deter you too much, but you're ready to take the plunge. The first thing you need to do before you buy your clay, way before you buy your clay, is look in your local area for kiln hire. Now, different people fire their kilns to different temperatures, and different types of clay have different types of temperatures that make it a cured fired piece. So once you find your kiln hire place, you can look at local ceramicists in the area, ask them. I've done that in the past where I had to search someone in my area to use their kiln. Some studios have kiln hire space. Once you find out what the temperature is, that's when you can buy your clay. Find a clay that matches the same cone or temperature that their kiln goes to, because otherwise you might end up with a piece that is overfired or underfired and won't be practical, and it's not a really good representation of what it's really like to do it at home. Pottery is an art form like any other, so I find that by hiring out someone else's kiln, you can give things a go, you can see whether you like it, see whether you like the transformation. It is such a long, really beautiful process, pottery, from start to finish, to watch it transform into this finished piece. But it's always good before investing in a kiln to sort of, I guess, like try some pieces out in someone else's kiln. Once you know that you absolutely love it, you can go your own way. You can do whatever you want. This is just sort of how I did it, and I really loved how I did it. Once you have figured that out, that's when you can go and buy a kiln, go buy the equipment. And as for starting this sort of thing with the slip molds, there are a lot of variables, but all you need to do is, instead of finding like a clay bag, you want to find slip. So clay slip, that's all it's called. There's no fancy word around it. And find it one that goes to the temperature that you want to fire it to, whether that be in a higher kiln or your own kiln. So that's sort of like a soft entry into pottery. It's so hard to recommend things because there's so many variables as to coloring clay, as to glazing clay. Different temperature clay bodies mean you might use different types of glazes as well. So that's a really tricky one to recommend. But the colouring work that I do is a lot of chrysanthos underglaze, and they go to up to stoneware temperatures, so your higher temperatures in the kiln. So I really recommend those if you're looking at doing detailed illustrative work. And then the glazes are where you get those mesmerising sort of mystical colours with little control over where they go. But yeah, it's really up to your own sort of, I guess, what you have access to and what temperature your kilns go to. But yeah, I'll get back to the video now because we're getting into the crux of the finishing details. So I painted all those up. I did 2 different colorways with the same palette. And here I noticed that some of the bottoms of these mug cups were a little bit wonky and a little bit wobbly. So I just put some water with a sponge on my table and just sort of moved them around on the water because it softened the bottom up and made them all flat for sitting on a bench. I then bisque fired these. I don't show this step because I kind of find it really underwhelming. It's just the test fire almost. So bisque firing is where you dry out your work. It takes all the moisture out and it's sort of like halfway to the transformation process. If you use a dipping glaze for your work, you do need a bisque fire. I tried not bisque firing and my piece literally, the clay dissolved into the glaze. It was a nightmare. So bisque firing is best if you want to dip glaze. I just recommend bisque firing. I really like it. I think it works really well for my work, but you can skip that step. I don't really have an example of when you can skip that step. Maybe if you're just using an underglaze and you're not doing any glazing, you can just skip it. But it's always a good test run to make sure your pieces are good to go. I began glazing and in this footage, I realized I had a pair of eyes on me. And it was my papa photobombed this whole shot because there was a storm outside and I didn't realize she'd gotten into the shed and she was just watching me glaze, and I thought it was so funny in the footage. But with glazing, I use a brush to sort of, some people sponge their pieces down completely to get rid of any dust and debris from the kiln. But I find that I don't really need to do that step. I mean, some people are going to be like, you should do that step, but I've never had any issues with glaze not adhering to my pieces. But if you want to gently sponge down all your pieces to make sure they're free from dust, I just go in with a little brush and scoop out any of the dust into a wet bucket. And then if it's like a cup, I pour the glaze into the cup, sponge down any drips, and then wait for where I've sponged down to dry, and then I dip it into my glaze. Every time I show how I glaze, I get a bunch of people going, you should use the tongs to dip it into the glaze. No, they don't work for me. They work for other potters. They just don't work for me. I use my fingers because what I do is I go around and just add a little dollop onto where they go. The reason I don't use the tongs is the tongs only sort of suit really, I guess, like symmetrical shapes. And because these molds and everything I make is not symmetrical, they're quirky shapes, they're different, they're really sculptural. The tongs don't work. They don't grab the piece and they're just really awkward on these types of pieces. So I dab the glaze onto the spots where my fingers were, and I sort of knock off any drip marks just to make sure that the glaze is nice and even for when it goes in the kiln. And as I was filming this, I went to sponge down the bottom and put my sponge straight into the glaze bucket right on camera. And I just thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? It's because my water bucket and glaze bucket are the same, and I rarely do this, but because you can see my water is so dirty now, I just didn't even think. It just like resonated that was the water bucket. So just enjoy that little blooper. But yeah, once that is all good to go, I sponge down the bases. Again, people tell me to use wax. I find that when I use wax, there's still some debris of the glaze on the bottom, and I need it to be completely free from glaze. Completely free, so that it does not stick at all and it has no powder on it whatsoever. So I sponge it down, and you can use wax. I find it's like an extra step that I don't need to do. Anyway, pack this kiln up overnight, open it up the next day, and here is our finished results. Wow, they are really something. I mean, the colors are really nice. I didn't talk much about the colors and what colors I really wanted. I kind of really wanted some really challenging colors to use. These are colors I use on the regular already. So if I were going to pick colors, I probably would have picked these, with the exception of maybe like a red for the nose and the mouth details to make it really classical clown look. But I'm pretty happy with these in general. They haven't really challenged my perspective of where to put the colors that much. But I think that these are really lovely. I noticed that you can see that the handle is the ear. I noticed that the hole for the ear is really quite small. I could only fit one finger into the handle, and it's a little bit awkward to hold with it. I think that this is really, I almost think it was intended for children with that handle size. But I can still pick it up. Yeah, again, I have really small hands. I have really small fingers and hands. So for someone with bigger hands, I think that this would be a little bit too small. But otherwise, I love the sturdiness of these. I love the way they sit on the bench. I feel like these could be really cute flower vases as well. Like you could have like a bouquet of sprouting colourful flowers, like the background that I'm showing these off on. This is the other colorway I painted second. I sort of painted it in between all of it, but I showed you this second. But I really like the green hair and the orange nose and things like that. It kind of reminds me of the Joker. If I had that red paint, it just would have finished that Joker look. Maybe I should have done this challenge, but did one as the challenge and one how I would have painted it. Maybe I should have done that. Anyway, we're here now. Maybe I could do that next time. I think that these are really cool if you like clowns. They have a real nice circusy vibe too. So I feel like you could really glitz these up to make them full circus chic. I also thought when I was making them that it'd be cool to make like a little earring to hang on that ear, even like a spot for like your tea bag or something to really add to that functional, quirky element of that ear sort of probing out. Otherwise, I think they're quite a dainty size. They're really small. I would probably say they're about 150 mil inside. But the creepiest thing I noticed about these is when you look at them, they are always looking at you. Like no matter what angle, and it just creeped me out. I don't know. It's just such a weird thing for me. Anyway, let me know what you think of this mold reveal in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe and do your engagement thing. And thank you for watching this week's reveal. And here's your sneak peek for next week.